It's almost impossible to actually visualize, isn't it? Our brains are just so wired to exist, trying to imagine not existing is like trying to imagine a new color.
Right. It makes your brain itch. But here's the question that really kept me up after reading our source material for today.
Uh-oh.
Is existence, even if that existence is defined by absolute, total suffering, is that still better than the void? Is being in pain a form of choice compared to not being at all?
That is a very heavy way to start, but you're right. That question is really the heartbeat of this deep dive today. We're looking at a really challenging piece of writing.
We are. We're unpacking a new article from the Journal of Islamic Psychology. It's by Dr. Raja King, published this past May 2025. And well, if you follow Dr. King's work, you know he doesn't really do light reading.
No, not at all. This is a rigorous philosophical breakdown. Specifically, he's tackling one of the oldest and, frankly, most difficult theological problems.
Which is?
How do you reconcile the idea of individual free will with the concept of eternal punishment? He's trying to build a logical bridge between I make a choice and I abide in fire forever.
And I'll be honest, when I first read the abstract, I was skeptical. I mean, the idea that anyone would choose eternal fire sounds, well, insane.
Of course.
Biologically, we're wired to avoid pain. You pull your hand from a hot stove before you even think about it. So how can Dr. King possibly argue that this is a choice? It feels like a contradiction.
It does if you look at it from a surface level. You know, like ordering at a restaurant, I'll have the steak, or I'll have the eternal fire.
Right, nobody picks the fire.
Exactly. But Dr. King isn't talking about preferences. He's talking about the metaphysics of existence. And he argues we have to start by looking at the only alternative.
Which brings us back to that void, that absolute nothingness.
Correct. Dr. King starts his entire argument by drawing the stark contrast between absolute nothing and the reality of the people in the afterlife, specifically those in hell.
Okay.
He basically treats their existence as a piece of data.
Walk me through that. What do you mean existence is data?
Well, think about a rock. It exists, it takes up space, but it doesn't have a will.
Sure.
Now think about a person in this theological framework. Dr. King says that if the individuals in hell were truly nothing, if their existence was just wiped out, then there'd be no suffering, but there'd also be no them.
Okay, they'd just be gone.
Right. So the fact that they do exist, even in this horrific state, is proof. It proves they're still part of the reality equation.
So just by being there, they're proving they have some kind of agency.
That's the argument. Existence in the afterlife isn't just a container you get dropped into. Dr. King suggests that existence is a sustained state. If you are there, it's because your will is anchoring you there. The source essentially argues, I exist, therefore I chose.
That is, wow. It's terrifying, but it also completely flips the script on how we usually view damnation.
How so?
We think of it like a trap door. You're walking along, you make a mistake, and whoops, you fell in.
Right. An accident.
But Dr. King seems to be saying there are no trapdoors.
He's very firm on that. In fact, a huge chunk of the article is about dismantling that trapdoor theory. He argues that for the punishment to be just, and justice is a core concept here, the individual has to have total agency. It can't be accidental.
But doesn't that put a massive, almost impossible burden on human free will? I mean, are we really that powerful that we can forge our own eternal reality?
According to this framework, yes. The source emphasizes that the Creator Allah granted humanity free will, not as some kind of trap to trip them up, but as a crucial opportunity.
An opportunity for what?
It's the mechanism that allows for paradise. You can't genuinely choose the light if you don't have the capacity, the real capacity, to choose the dark.
Okay, I get the binary. You need the option of no to make the yes really meaningful.
Exactly.
But the article uses a phrase that it stuck in my throat. It says, those in hellfire actively chose that path forever. Actively. That implies effort. It implies intent.
And it completely challenges that notion of the passive sinner, you know.
Yeah, the person who was just lazy or didn't care enough.
Dr. King is arguing that the path to hell is active. You have to work at it.
Work at it how?
Yeah.
By doing bad things.
It's deeper than that. It's about maintaining a state of denial. This is where it gets into the psychology of it. It's not just about, say, stealing or lying. It's about a fundamental orientation of yourself.
Okay.
Dr. King argues these individuals aren't just stumbling. They are actively pushing away the alternative. They're engaged in a constant active state of refusal.
But I have to play devil's advocate here. If the consequence is eternal fire, surely at some point the person says, okay, never mind, I take it back. why would they actively choose to stay on that path?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Dr. King's answer to that is what he calls the warning system. This gets to the no hidden clauses part of his analysis.
Meaning?
You can't claim you bought a defective product if the warning label was the size of a billboard.
So, because the warnings were there, specifically through the Quran and Revelation, the choice is ratified. It's locked in.
Precisely. That's the logic the source uses. Dr. King argues Allah warned everyone very clearly about the eternal nature of the consequences, so the choice to ignore those warnings wasn't made in a vacuum.
It was made in the face of the data.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you're driving toward a cliff. There are signs for 10 miles saying cliff ahead. There are flashing lights. Barricades. If you plow through all of that and go over the edge, can you really say the cliff was a surprise?
No. You'd have to say that driving off the cliff was, in some twisted way, what you were committed to doing.
Yes, because you ignored everything that tried to stop you. And that commitment is what validates the consequence. The transparency of the warning is what makes the punishment just in this theological view.
This feels like the right moment to actually look at the specific text he uses. Because he doesn't just keep this abstract. He anchors it right in Scripture.
He does. He points specifically to Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 39. And this verse is really the cornerstone of his entire argument about the active nature of this choice.
I have it here. The source's translation reads, "But those who disbelieve and deny our signs, those will be companions of the fire. They will abide therein eternally."
Okay, so there are two really key things happening in that verse that Dr. King just zooms in on. First, let's look at the action.
Disbelieve and deny.
Right. We need to talk about that word disbelieve. In English, that can feel so passive, like, I disbelieve it will rain tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just an opinion. But the source uses the Arabic term kufar, and this is a critical distinction he makes.
What's the distinction?
In Western secular thought, disbelief is often seen as a neutral state, a lack of convincing evidence. But in Islamic psychology, and certainly in Dr. King's analysis, kufar is an action. The root of the word implies to cover something up.
Covering up. That implies you know the thing is there and you are actively putting a blanket over it.
Exactly. You can't cover something you don't see. So Dr. King argues that kufar isn't ignorance, it's the active suppression of the truth. The verse says they deny our signs.
And to deny a sign, you first have to recognize it as a sign and then reject it.
You've got it. That brings a whole new layer to his active choice argument. It's not, I didn't know, it's, I saw it and I said no. It is a refusal to submit to the reality presented to you.
An assertion of the ego. I trust my own navigation more than the signs.
That's a good way to put it. And then we get to the second part of the verse, the consequence.
They will abide therein eternally. Now, this is the part that usually trips people up. The idea of infinite punishment for finite crimes. We live for, what, 80, 90 years. Why is the consequence forever?
This is where his philosophical bridge really gets built. Dr. King connects the permanence of the fire to the permanence of the stance taken by the individual.
Mirrors it how?
He suggests the forever isn't just an arbitrary length of time from a judge. It mirrors the nature of the rejection itself. If the kufar, the denial, is a fundamental core characteristic of that person's will, if they have solidified themselves into a permanent state of no,
then the consequence is just that state playing out indefinitely.
yes, they aren't being punished for a specific theft or a specific lie. They are abiding in the state they created for themselves.
So what you're saying is the person in this scenario has become a denier. It's not just something they did, it's who they are.
That's the deep implication here. The source suggests that if you were to give them 1,000,000 more years, they would still make the same choice. Their rejection wasn't situational, it was existential. Therefore, the consequence is also existential.
Wow, that connects right back to that phrase the article uses, a manifestation of individual choice. I circled it 3 times.
And it reframes the whole thing. It's not a courtroom sentencing. It's more like a ratification.
Ratification, that's a perfect word for it.
Yeah.
It's the universe saying, okay, you have insisted on this path. You have denied the signs. This is what that separation you chose looks like.
It effectively removes the randomness. It makes the individual incredibly powerful, but in the scariest way possible.
It means your will is strong enough to forge your own nightmare.
And it suggests that human beings are not pawns. We're not just biological machines. We are creatures with a terrifying capacity for agency. Dr. King even argues that the existence of hellfire is the ultimate proof that our free will is actually real.
Wait, unpack that for me. Hell is proof of free will.
Think about it. If we were robots, or just animals acting on instinct, there would be no moral consequence. A tiger isn't punished eternally for eating a gazelle.
It has no choice.
It has no choice. But the fact that this state of fire exists for humans implies that we had the capacity to go elsewhere. The severity of the outcome highlights the validity of the choice.
It's the stakes that prove the game is real.
Exactly. If the stakes were zero, the choice would just be an illusion.
This really forces a shift in perspective. We usually ask, how could a merciful creator allow this? But Dr. King is pivoting the camera. He's asking, why would a creation insist on this?
And that pivot puts the responsibility squarely on the individual. It suggests that the doors to the fire are locked from the inside, to borrow a phrase.
But I keep coming back to the forever. Actively chose that path forever. Is he implying that even in the fire, the person is still saying no?
That is the darkest and honestly most fascinating implication of the text. The source suggests that the will to deny doesn't break, because if it broke, if they genuinely repented, the whole framework would look different.
But the text says they abide.
It implies a static state of being. They are locked in their own resolve.
So the suffering doesn't change their mind.
The source implies that the suffering is the result of their mind, not a tool to change it. It's a subtle but massive difference.
Right. Modern prisons are, theoretically, about rehabilitation. Learn your lesson.
But this framework is about identity. You forged an identity of denial, and now you inhabit it. It really challenges the modern view of, I'm a good person, I just make mistakes.
This says your mistakes are symptoms of your orientation.
It asks us to look at the trajectory of our lives. Are we moving toward the signs, or are we actively filtering them out? Because if kufar is an active process of covering up, you have to ask yourself, what am I covering up right now?
That's the practical application right there.
We all do it. We see a consequence coming and we ignore it. We see a moral obligation and we pretend it's not there. We rationalize. The source warns that if you calcify that behavior, you're walking that path.
You might walk it all the way to the end.
And the scary part is, according to Dr. King, you won't even admit you're lost when you get there. You'll just keep driving.
Okay, I feel like we've really taken this apart. Let's just quickly recap the three main pillars we found in Dr. King's work for you, the listener, who's trying to file this away.
Sure. Pillar 1, the contrast. Non-existence versus reality. Dr. King argues that existing in hell is a data point. It proves the individual is still a self.
Right. I suffer, therefore I chose.
Pillar 2, the mechanism. Free will is an opportunity, not a trap, but it operates in a high-stakes environment with a very clear warning system.
The billboard analogy.
Ah.
You can't sue the cliff.
And pillar 3, the scripture. Surah Al-Baqarah 39 frames the outcome not as an arbitrary punishment, but as the eternal abiding in a state you chose. The punishment matches the crime because the crime is a permanent posture of the soul.
It's a very tightly wound argument. It doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for excuses.
No, it really doesn't. It strips away any victim mentality. It demands that you own your existence.
Which is empowering, in a way. It means we aren't victims of fate, but man, the cost of getting it wrong is high.
Infinite, according to the source.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with one last thought to mull over. We've talked a lot about Dr. King's argument that existence in hellfire is the result of an active, eternal choice.
Right.